Well, one of the greatest achievements of the post-colonial state in South Africa was, of course, the establishment of the NSFAS, or the National Student Financial Aid Scheme. And there's no doubt that since its inception, the NSFAS has assisted hundreds of thousands of poor as well as middle-class students to gain access to higher education institutions. The reality is, however, that despite this great achievements of the scheme over almost 10 decades or 3 decades, like any other organization, it has had its highs as well as lows, and one of those lowest moments being, of course, the inability to pay beneficiaries on time as well as other structural problems. Education activist Mr. Hendrick Makaneta joins us now for more analysis. Hendrick, a very good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us, sir. Firstly, your reaction to the latest developments at NSFAS.
Well, Bongiwe, the latest developments at the National Student Financial Aid Scheme is a cause for great concern. The fact that the CEO has just been relieved of his duties, coupled with the report that came from Werkman's attorneys citing a number of irregularities within the scheme in as far as the organizations that are disbursing finance are concerned. We think that it is a good thing that Higher Education Minister Dr. Blake Nzimande has issued a statement today to call upon the board to collaborate with management of NSFAS with a view to remedy the situation. I think that of concern is the fact that, as we speak, there are still students who have not received their allowances as well as their payments. And that is a challenge that we really want the board to resolve without delay.
Absolutely. And Hendrick, that's exactly what I was going to ask. I mean, the ones who suffer the most here are the students, the vulnerable ones, and this should be heavily lambasted. Talk to us about the long-term impact that these developments then have on the actual students themselves.
Well, Bongiwe, students experience anxiety when they do not get the necessary support. Of course, financial support at this point is a very key type of support that makes the lives of students easier. You'll agree with me that there are students who stay in private residences, yes. And so if allowances are not paid, it means that that impacts negatively on the relationship of the students along with the private residences. Some people may not take it for long. You may find that students end up losing a place to stay. And accommodation on its own is very central in the development of students, their academic performance, because most of the students come from, far. Some of them come from faraway provinces, and, they rely on the accommodation, but also on food. They need food to be able to survive in this highly contested terrain of higher education.
And speaking of food, yes, just to note there, I mean, we saw the University of Limpopo's SRC even going to that extent where they had to then make plans and arrangements to aid students and by giving them food packages. But Hendrick, look, the DA has called for further investigations looking into the saga. Would you agree with this stance? And what specifically would you then recommend needs more investigation here? Or maybe we just need a total reset and rebuild the organization from scratch at this stage?
Bongiwe, I think that as we speak now, we are aware, you'll recall that the SIU is also, is part of the equation now, along with the SCOPA in Parliament. But of importance is that we want the Portfolio Committee on Higher Education to take a lead in this case, because NSFAS, exists in that particular space. I think that the Portfolio Committee on Higher Education should be able to summon the board of NSFAS, along with Higher Education Minister, to come and give a clear report with a view to ensure that all of the recommendations that have been made by Bergman's attorney are implemented. But you'll also recall that the CEO, or the former CEO rather, has taken the matter up with the courts. And we might be in for another long battle of challenges that we will continue to face. But at this point, I think that the board must just be able to be decisive to make sure that they speed up the process of ensuring that they appoint, relevant service providers who can be able to carry on, with the task of disbursing funds before it is too late.
And then, Hendrick, in closing and futuristically, I mean, we've seen a trend with a lot of these government entities and initiatives that are supposed to or purported to be strictly at the benefit of the poor and vulnerable, seemingly always disintegrating in this manner amid various corruption allegations and misappropriation of funds that are usually channeled to individuals and their close circles. I mean, like the Lotteries Board, the Road Accident Fund, SASSA, just to mention a few. Yet there seems to be no end to the trend, and seemingly government never takes any drastic measures to hold the guilty accountable. They simply remove the head of these organizations without imparting or even establishing a proper blueprint in preventative measures. It's quite worrying because then it just becomes a continuous cycle. How should government deal with such, according to you, henceforth?
I think that where there is evidence of wrongdoing, government should move with the necessary speed to ensure that, people are charged. We really need high-frequency leadership within government. We want people who will not steal from the poor. What is happening is that we will see leaders with lower frequency skills who continuously misuse the funds that are meant for the poor. But in certain instances, you find that it's just, the matter of irregularities where, the necessary protocol was not followed and so on, like in the case of the former CEO.
Yes.
So sometimes the courts are not able to move with the necessary speed to make sure that these issues are addressed.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Hendrick Makaneta, there, an education activist, giving us some analysis into the NSFAS saga.